All right, we're almost there. We're almost there. Thank you, Jill. Please welcome to the stage our next speaker, founder and CEO of Block Native, Matt Cutler, and his topic is why Web3, why now, to fix the world. So, round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. You made it. It's 6:10 p.m. on a Friday. Thanks for sticking around. This is going to be like a super fast crash course on basically how to talk to your normie friends and family about crypto where it doesn't sound like it's a scam, okay? It's going to be a pretty fast talk, and it's going to hopefully be fun here. But like, why are we here? I can't speak for you. I can only speak for myself. I've been building in the Ethereum ecosystem for coming up on 7 years now. When I started, I was 6'6" and I didn't have gray hair. It's been quite a journey. But I came to this space to solve big problems. And by big problems, I mean like global GDP problems. And how big is the global GDP? It's 110 trillion per year. It's actually pretty hard to wrap your mind around. And so breaking it down, and this is a little bit of an eye chart, is this top one is pretty interesting. The single largest component of global GDP is financial services. It's 34 trillion, or about 31% of the global economy goes to the money. And that should make you think. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. Before I do, I'm going to draw an analogy to this one down here. This is the media and entertainment industry. It's 12th on the list, 2.8 trillion, which is still a huge number, but it's less than 1/10 the size of the financial services industry. And we have witnessed, I am of generally a different vintage than many of you who are here, we've witnessed a massive transformation of the media and entertainment industry over the past 35 years. And that kind of shows the way about what might be possible for us up at the top in financial services. So this is me, my first day of freshman year at MIT with my mom in front of Lobby 10 at MIT. This is summer of 1991. And when I got to MIT, we did a lot of classwork, our homework, in workstations like this. It's called the Athena cluster. They were Unix workstations, high-speed internet. We were at school. That's where the classwork was. They were connected to each other. They were connected to other campuses, and we didn't know any better. And it turned out this was the internet. We'd never heard of it before. We didn't know any better. And it looked kind of like this. This is a protocol, an application called Gopher, which was kind of boring. But then in September of 1993, the Mosaic browser was introduced. And that really changed things. It felt different. It was visual. It was easier. It was more approachable. And websites started to pop up, and things like Yahoo were formed, where each day you could see which new websites come, and you could go check them out. And at this point, I started an internet company back in 1994. The internet was so small, you could fit it in your hand. You could read all of Usenet in about 15 minutes. You could see all the websites that had come online. You could watch as stuff happened. And what was interesting was, those of us who were in the internet then, it was really obvious what the future was going to be, because it was just better in every way. But if you were outside the internet, which the whole rest of the world was in 1994, it was not at all obvious what the future was going to be. And it might be really romantic to think about building an internet company over these years, but I can tell you it was pretty lonely, because no one really knew what it was. No one really thought it would amount to something. There were all these big companies that said they were going to do this stuff, and it felt like you were kind of this ragtag thing until about 98 and 99 when it really blew up. Now, that seems like not very long, but in real time, I went from 21 years old to 26 years old. That was a long time. And by 2000, it got huge. It was a dot-com boom. And I took my company public at that point. It was crazy. And after about 2007, when Apple introduced the iPhone, online actually consumed the offline world. Today, we live in a world which is entirely online. If we want to go offline, we got to go someplace to the frontier, to the edge, to get away from cell service, which is a crazy inversion when you think about it. But it also had much more practical implications, like how we consume media. We started in the Blockbuster era. I wonder how many of you have ever been in a Blockbuster? But to consume media, you had to like get in your car and go to a store. And there was a limited collection of physical tapes. And if you were looking for a hot movie, you probably wouldn't get it. And you paid for that, and you brought it home and watched it, and had to rewind it and bring it back. It seems pretty archaic compared to that which we know today, Netflix and YouTube. Think about how different that is. Think about how much bigger it is. Think about how much more efficient it is, all driven by the advent of internet protocols, broadband, and mobile. And I share this with you because it's really hard in the Blockbuster era to imagine what YouTube would be. It stretches the imagination. But as we think about the financial services sector, today we are living in the Blockbuster era. The financial rails that the world works on were invented decades ago. And we can't even see the possibilities. And so when I talk with my normie friends, normies, no-coiners, not you who are here, of course, I ask a very simple question. How often do you get paid? And everybody says the same thing, I get paid twice a month. And you go, awesome, but how often do you work? Well, I work all the time. You go, wait a sec, isn't that strange? You work all the time and then you get paid twice a month? Like, what if you got your salary streamed in real time? Wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be fairer? And why doesn't it work that way today? And every normie I've ever talked to is able to say the same thing, which is, it's too expensive, it's too slow, the system isn't built for that. You say, yes, exactly, because the financial system we enjoy today is decades old, and what we are doing in Web3 is building modern financial rails that will enable, in fact, two already today, enable streaming salary, and enable cash discounts using digital assets, and enable all of these things that seem like fantasy. It's here right now, it's just not evenly distributed, right? And so this is the journey when I talk to normies where they go, oh yeah, that's interesting. And I say, hey, look, I started my on-chain journey in 2017. MetaMask looked like this. It was in the era of the original CryptoKitties, but it's gone a whole heck of a lot slower. And we're all here at ETH Denver basically saying, when is it going to blow up? When is it going to be? Is it right now? When are we going to be in this world? Is it soon that everything will be on-chain and the off-chain world will be very small? The trend seems very similar, but the timeline seems quite different. It's harder, it's more risk, and the regulatory environment hasn't been that great. But the evidence is already here. This is from a recent earnings announcement from Robinhood. It costs us roughly an order of magnitude less to operate a cryptocurrency business and offer exchange of assets than it does on the TradFi side. So this is an existing big business. It's 1/10 the cost. It's 1,000% more efficient. And so the objective that I have in Web3 is just to make the existing global financial services industry 50% more efficient. 50%, not 10x. And what would that get us? It'd get us 16 trillion of GDP per year. By the way, that's the size of the entire global manufacturing industry, 16 trillion. And all we have to do is modernize the protocols and drive adoption. What could we do with 16 trillion per year? We could scale up carbon sequestration and address global climate change. We could accelerate fusion power generation so we put less carbon in the world. We could have next-gen therapeutics that would massively improve quality of life. We could ensure aligned AGIs that would accelerate all of this, which may already be happening right now. And we could even start building off-planet habitats. Basically, we could fix the world. That's what we're doing here. We have this opportunity to face the existential challenges facing our generation with a similar degree of optimism that prior generations have faced their existential challenges. And it seems crazy, it's just code, but really, this is it. We're right here. We're at the cusp. So in summary, I try to draw the analogy between the transition we went through from Web 1 to Web 3, from Blockbuster to Netflix and YouTube. We are standing on the precipice of that in global financial services. You are here, we are here to build in accordance with the values of our ecosystem. Trustlessness, permissionlessness, composability, open source, shared governance. This is what we do at Block Native. We're building a new thing called the Gas Network, which is all about the Web3 transaction pricing with all of those principles. And I encourage all of you here and all of you at home to investigate and invest in these principles. We're here to fix the world. That's why I'm here, and that's why I hope you're here too. And I wish everybody an amazing ETH Denver. It's been so great to be here. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great hackathon for all of you hacking. And thank you, everybody. Good night. Cheers.